Alright, we're going to solve some equations and talk about some formulas here, and when we're solving these equations we're going to be solving for one variable in terms of another. So this really shows me if you understand what equations are and how to solve them. And this is also going to be very helpful later on when we get into Unit 5 on linear equations. So this is going to be important to understand. So I am trying to get the y by itself. So I look over here, here's my y, so I got to get rid of things over here. Just like before, we want to get rid of anything added or subtracted first. So I want to subtract 3x from each side. That leaves me negative 4y, and I can't really do this, simplify this, so it's just 7 minus 3x. So there's no math that you actually have to do there. Now again, is the y by itself? No, so I need to divide both sides by negative 4. These cancel, leaving me y, and I have 7 minus 3x all over negative 4, because negative 4 does not go into either one of those. If it did go into them, I would go ahead and divide them. Now a lot of times we don't like to leave a negative sign on the bottom, so I'm going to divide and really just divide everything by negative 1, which makes my top one, or multiply by negative 1, negative 7, makes this plus 3x, and gives me a positive 4 on the bottom. So that would be my final answer, solving for y. This next one we're going to solve for m, and you notice, I hope, that we have m's on both sides. So we're going to have to get those together on one side and everything else on the other. So let's get rid of this t first. So I'm going to add t, and I like to put a little curve on my t so I can tell what it is different than the plus sign. And I get 2m equals, I can't really add anything together here because none of them are like terms, so I just put plus 5 plus t. So now again, I want to get my m's together, so I'm going to subtract xm from each side to get it over here with my 2m. Leaving me 2m minus xm equal 5 plus t. Alright, here's a very tricky step. I want you to look at this and see if you can tell me in this left side what has been distributed. So what do they have in common? They have an m in common, so I'm going to undistribute the m. Before it was distributed, it would have been out here in front, and it would have been times 2 minus x. So that's kind of a tricky step to get, that the m was in common, so we're going to undistribute it. It's really got another name, but we'll just call it undistribute right now. And leaves me this. So in other words, if I would distribute, I'd get 2m minus 2x, or minus xm, sorry. So now I want to get the m by itself, so I need to divide by this whole thing, 2 minus x. Can you read that? Let's rewrite that. 2 minus x all over 2 minus x. So these 2 minus x cancel, leaving me m, which is what I wanted. And over here I just have 5 plus t all over 2 minus x. So it's kind of messy looking, but that is my answer. Here's one we're going to try. We're going to solve for b in this one. So again, find the b that you're trying to get by itself and say, what do I need to get rid of? Well, let's get rid of the 12c by subtracting 12c from each side. I get 5b equals 9 minus 12c. b is not by itself. I need to divide by 5. It doesn't go into either one of those, so I will just leave it. 9 minus 12c all over 5. And here's an example of using it in a formula. So think of some of the formulas you know. I hope you know some area formulas. Are rectangle length times width, volume of a box, length times width times height. E equals mc squared. Many of you just know that one. We've talked about Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. So some of those formulas I hope you already know. Well, we're going to be given a car's fuel economy, which we're designating with E, is given by this formula. M divided by G. M stands for the number of miles driven. G is the number of gallons. So the first thing it says is solve for M. So if I want to get M by itself, it's being divided by G, so I would multiply both sides by G. I am going to put the E first, doesn't really matter, but there's my formula. EG equals M. Now it says it has an average fuel consumption of 30 miles per gallon and uses 9.5 gallons. How far would it go? So E is 30, so I'm going to put a 30 in place of E. G, gallons, is 9.5. I don't know M. Take your calculator and multiply those two together. You're going to get 285 equals M. And what is it? It is miles. So please make sure you label your answer.